Hello, my friends. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Sonia's Real Estate Connection and Hot Topics, all things real estate on this show. Welcome to another session of Tip Tuesday. Tip Tuesdays are special segments of the real estate show where I will share with you and highlight professional tips and pointers to assist you with your real estate and business practices. Once again, thank you for tuning in to this new episode of Tip Tuesday, another segment of Sonia's Real Estate Connection and Hot Topics. Glad you could join with us on today. We have an exciting show for you today because we are talking about showings, and we'll be answering the question of how do you conduct showings on rental properties? Many of you know that as we approach the summer season, the real estate season starts to heat up. And it's already a hot market here in the great state of Wisconsin and in the wonderful city of Milwaukee. So many agents are out and about showing properties for sale, and there are some agents who show properties for rent. In our property management and rental leasing division, we receive a lot of calls from prospective renters who are looking for properties to rent. So there are some agents who have questions about how to conduct rental property showings. Is it any different from showing a listed property for sale? Well, let's explore this together and find out more about it. Are you ready? All right, let's get right into it. Showing rental properties are almost the same as showing properties for sale, but there are some variations and distinctions which I'll point out today. One of the main and perhaps obvious differences is that you're showing a property for rent and not for sale. Now, there could be some properties that are listed for rent and also for sale, but for the purposes of this show, we'll focus on those that are for rent. So the prospect that you're showing the rental property to, if they end up signing a lease, a rental lease, then you could very well have a long-term customer and a long-term customer relationship with them for a year or so, depending on your role. So if you're a property manager or property owner of the rental unit, then this could be someone that you have to collect rent from on a monthly basis, or you may have to visit the property occasionally for site inspections or for maintenance and repairs, or to do other work at the property, and so on and so forth. So those are some of the differences and some of the obvious distinctions with a rental prospect, and some things to keep in mind for future reference. Now, in terms of the showing process for licensed agents and leasing agents, I'll highlight 8 key steps to help you successfully show rental properties. Number 1, request a showing. The first step is to request a showing with the listing agent or the seller representative per the showing instructions. Now, if the property is not listed in MLS or on a public website, and let's say there's a for rent sign on the property or in the yard, then you would call the number on the sign to request a showing if it's not listed in MLS or some other public website with showing instructions. When you contact the agent or the representative, you will provide your name, your company name or the agency that you represent, your agent ID if applicable, your phone number or a good contact number to reach you at, an email address if applicable, and the date and time of your showing request, your customer name if they ask for it, and your agency if applicable or if they ask for it. So in terms of agency, if you're going through the MLS Showing Time, or if you're utilizing the Showing Time app or a similar app, they may ask the question for you to identify your agency. So when you identify your agency, you can identify either as a pre-agency or no agency, or if you represent the buyer or the tenant. So if you have a signed buyer agency agreement, then you have a buyer agency. Or if you have a signed, in this case, for rental properties, if you have a signed tenant representation agreement, then you have an agency agreement with that client. So if they have signed a representation form, then they are a client as opposed to a customer. Now, we can get into all of that on a different show, but today we're talking about how to show the properties. And so that's the process for requesting a showing. If they do ask you to identify your agency, then that's what you would do. So if you have a signed agreement, then you would indicate that you do have agency with that prospect. Number 2, scheduling. Once you receive confirmation from the listing agent or the seller representative, then you will go back to your prospect and confirm the date and time for the showing. You want to follow up and send them a reminder confirmation in advance of the showing, just to make sure that everyone is on the same page in terms of the location, the address of the property, if there's a unit or an apartment number. Make sure that you confirm that as well in the showing confirmation. And if there's a specific location that you want to meet them at, let's say you're showing a condo at a large condominium development, or you're showing a unit at a large apartment complex where there might be different doors, there might be certain gates that you have to enter, or maybe it's a gated community of some sort, then you want to be very specific and clear about those instructions and the meeting location. If there are any parking instructions or restrictions as to where you can or cannot park, you also want to identify that as well and stipulate that in any confirmation instructions or reminders to your prospects. So let's say you want to meet, let's say you tell them, let's meet in parking lot A by door number 2, or we're going to meet on the east side entrance over by the gate. Or if it's a larger building, you just want to specify where you're going to meet so that everyone can meet at the same time in the same location. You don't want to have someone going to a back door and they're supposed to be at the front door, or they're on the east side of the building and they're supposed to be on the west side, just to avoid that and eliminate those types of things that can happen. They can and will and sometimes do happen. So you want to try to minimize that as much as possible and be very clear with those showing confirmation and instruction and the showing details. Another thing I recommend is that you provide details of the showing to the office manager or the broker in advance of the showing, so that the information can be posted publicly if applicable, perhaps on a shared calendar. So if your office has a shared calendar that they utilize for appointments, such as Google Calendar or MS or an office calendar of some sort, put that information on the office calendar or on your team calendar so that others will know where you are for safety reasons. And in case of an emergency, for some reason you're not able to make it, then someone else can jump right in and cover for you and provide adequate and necessary coverage. You also want to review the rental requirements in advance, the rental application, familiarize yourself with those documents. Any pre-qualification or pre-screening of the prospect is highly recommended. And then you want to gather and confirm the prospect's name, their phone number, email address, and all of their contact information in order to communicate back and forth with them, and again confirm all of the details with them for the showing. Number 3, arrival. Be on time for all appointments. Be on time for all appointments. Be prompt and courteous and be on time. I cannot stress this enough to be on time for your appointments. Nothing looks worse or more unprofessional than showing up 5, 10, 15 minutes late, or showing up and the prospects are already there waiting. Now, I've had situations where people have showed up half hour in advance, or 20, 30 minutes in advance before I got there. And, if they want to arrive an hour early or half hour early, there's nothing you can do about that. They're certainly more than welcome to do so. That's their prerogative. But if you set the appointment with them, you're the professional, you're the agent, you're the leasing agent, you need to be there on time, if not early. I recommend getting there at least a very minimum 10-15 minutes early if possible. Make sure that you map out the travel time in advance. If this is an area that you're not familiar with, you want to map it out in advance. Allow yourself a few extra minutes for traffic. You never know what's going to happen. You may run across a train track, and lo and behold, there's a train coming, and that causes a 5 to 10 minute delay. There may be construction going on. There may be an accident or something on the freeway. You never know. So you want to allow time for some of those unknown variables. Some things are out of our control, and we can't always control what goes on with traffic and life and things of that nature. But just give yourself some extra time so that you can arrive early and on time for your showing appointment. Again, arrive at least 10 to 15 minutes early for the appointment, to make sure that you're on time, and also for prepping and setup of the showing. You may have open house signs or showing signs that you want to place in the yard prior to. There may be directional signs that you have to stop and place prior to approaching the property, sometimes a few blocks away in each direction or various directions. We have directional signs that point people in the direction of the property. Maybe there are flags sometimes that we use for marketing purposes. We stick the flags in the ground to bring attention to the property, just so that people know that they're at the right place. So again, prepping and setting up everything for your showing or open house. You want to go in, open the house. Sometimes there might be issues with the lockbox or the key that could take up another 2 to 3 minutes. If there's issues with getting the lockbox open, getting the right key, maybe the key might be missing. You got to call someone. Who knows what the situation may be. So anyway, assuming that you have the key, open up the property, open up the doors, turn on all the lights, open up the windows or the blinds, curtains, drapes, make sure everything is well lit, make sure the property is presentable. Now, in my past experience, I've learned to, and you might laugh and find this funny, but I've learned to bring a broom or keep a broom, mop, dustpan, wipe cloths, etc. in the trunk or in the car, just to tidy up the place, because you never know what you're walking into. Sometimes some of these properties have been sitting vacant for a couple of weeks, a few weeks or more, or a month or two, and so sometimes dust accumulates, cobwebs might accumulate, and so you just want to go in and make sure that it's tidy and clean and presentable. You might have to sweep up a little dust in the corners or whatever, wipe down the countertops in the kitchen, bathroom, and whatnot, and just make it presentable. Sometimes I've had a can of Lysol spray or something I've taken in, or open up a window, let some fresh air in if it's been closed up for a while and no air, nothing circulating, so might have a little bit of an odor. So certain things you have to do as part of the job. So these are just some pointers that I'm sharing with you. So again, give yourself some time to get everything ready. You want to check for the sign-in sheets and applications. Make sure that they're properly displayed. If you have a display on the countertop, typically in the kitchen area, make sure that that's all set up and arranged the way you would like for it to be accordingly. Rental applications, marketing sheets, always bring a few extra pins, and business cards for yourself to market for yourself for future business. And then I always bring a receipt book. And you might ask, well, why a receipt book? Well, in case a prospect wants to fill out an application on site, sometimes they do. They want to fill out the rental application right there on site, and they want to pay the application fee, and that means that you have to write out a receipt for them for paying the application fee. So it's best to keep a receipt book handy, and if you're a property owner, you probably already have a few in the car here and there. So if you're a landlord and you're collecting rents and whatnot, you should already have receipt books. But if not, just have one on hand in case someone wants to fill out a paper application as opposed to going to the website and applying online. Number 4, attire and dress code. Your clothing should be professional, neat, and clean. Clothes should be pressed and not wrinkled or dirty. Again, they should be neat and clean. If you have company shirts or company apparel, then this is a great time to represent your company or agency. If you have shirts or sweaters, jackets, coats with company logos on them, this is a great time to represent. This is not the time for baggy pants or jeans hanging off your butts. This is not the time for that. It's never a time for that, but this certainly is not the time for that. Or for shirts and blouses to be hanging halfway off your chest, or your chest to be hanging out. This is not the time for that. This is a time where you want to present yourself in a professional, neat manner. Now, I've seen a lot. I've seen it all. I mean, we've walked into showings and, where it's hard to tell the agent from the buyer or the customer or the prospect, because there's no distinction. I've had customers ask, where's the agent? Who's the agent? Because it's hard to tell based on their clothing and their attire and their appearance and their look, when there's no distinction between who is the professional in the group. So, I challenge you and everyone else to raise the bar and present yourself in a professional, clean manner. And that means having a professional look and clean, neat attire. If you have name badges, if the company provides name badges, you should wear the name badge that shows your name and the company or the agency that you're working for or representing. Again, if applicable. And I believe that raises the bar and, sets expectations for the level of professionalism that the prospect will expect to be engaged in. Number 5, conducting the showing. So as the guest approach the property, you should welcome the guest as soon as they approach the entranceway or walk into the property. You want to welcome them to the showing. You want to greet everyone in a cheerful and positive manner and smile. Always smile. It speaks volumes. It says a lot when you smile. So again, greet everyone in a professional and a positive manner. And if it's a showing appointment, then you want to direct them to various areas of the property and point out certain features. You want to point out certain features and amenities such as how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, if there's a living room and a dining room, a fireplace, sunroom, sun porch, if there's garage, covered parking or uncovered parking, how many parking spaces are included, if appliances are included, if there's a basement or a shared basement with appliance hookup, what type of gas stove hookup is available if appliances are not included, and any other features and amenities to point out. And then of course the rent amount, because remember, they may be looking at several different properties, or they may have already looked at several properties. So you want to remind them about the features of your property to make it stand out. Now, it's okay to engage them further or to ask them a few questions, such as, what is your time frame for moving? What is your price range? Are you familiar with the area, or are you from here? What is the reason for your move? Now, these questions are typically also reflected on the application, and it's okay to ask them in person as well. This will allow you to gather a little more information about them, and they can in turn gather a little more information about you, about the company, and about the property. So it's a mutual exchange of information during the search and discovery process. Now, if it's an open house that you're conducting, you would allow them to tour the property on their own as a self-guided tour. But again, you still want to be there to answer any questions that they may have and to direct them further should they have additional interest. Number 6, closing out the showing. When closing out the showing, you want to thank everyone for coming. Ask if they have any questions. And then you want to direct them to the website or to the office for further information and inquiries. Number 7, post-showing follow-up. Post-showing follow-up. So you want to follow up with the information that's on the sign-in sheet or on your appointment sheet and notes. You want to provide feedback to the listing agent or to the seller's representative as applicable. And then if anyone has submitted a rental application on the site, you want to follow up with that immediately. So if someone completed a paper application and paid the application fee, you want to turn in that rental application right away, as time is of the essence. And so we give those top priority, and we process our rental applications right away. And properties are offered on a first come, first served basis. So again, if someone completed a rental application on site, then what do you want to do with it? You want to turn it in immediately, right away, so we can get that processed. Time is of the essence. Same thing, it's just like with an offer. If someone presents an offer or submits an offer on a property, we have to submit those promptly and objectively. Rental applications, same thing. Submit them promptly right away for processing. Number 8, lock up and secure the property. So when you're all done with your showing, you want to lock up the property and secure the property. You want to take several steps to do so. You want to turn off all the lights, make sure all the doors are closed and locked properly. Report any damages immediately, any issues, report them immediately. Take photos or videos immediately and send them in to the manager or to the property owner or to the office. But you want to report any damages or anything that's awry, and any issues, you want to report those immediately. If there's any missing documents at the property, such as, let's say, you ran out of applications or you ran out of the marketing data sheets, the MLS sheets, sign-in sheets, you want to report those so that those items can get replenished right away, and so that they can replenish them for the next showing or the next appointment. Hopefully you won't need another showing, because you will have procured a rental applicant and a new tenant for the property. But just in case, you want to make sure that those items are replenished for the next appointment. And again, you want to make sure that the property is secured. The keys are returned to the lockbox, and the lockbox is secured. Make sure it's fully closed, and scramble the numbers if it's applicable. If it's one of those types of lockboxes, make sure that the numbers are scrambled. If it's a digital lockbox, such as a SentryLock lockbox, then you want to make sure that it is fully closed and secured. Because remember, we are responsible for these properties. So if we're representing the seller or the owners, then they have entrusted us as agents and real estate professionals for the care and maintenance and management of that property. So it's very important to make sure that everything is in decent order, and again, to make sure that the property is locked and secured. I treat the properties as if they're my own. I would want my house to be locked and secured, right? How do you want you don't want someone to leave your house open, right? So treat it as if it's your own. Again, make sure everything is locked up and secured. All the windows are closed, doors are closed and locked, and leave it as you found it. Leave the house as you found it. Same thing with for sale properties. Leave it as you found it. Don't leave it worse off than you found it. If anything, make it better, but leave it as you found it. We don't like to go to a property and find things that are awry, things that are out of array, that, oh, this wasn't like this before, or where did this come from, or someone was using the facilities and left a mess, or didn't leave things back the way they were, or someone ate lunch or had their lunch here and left the food bags all over the place, and didn't throw it in the garbage, or didn't wipe the countertop off, little things like that. That's very unprofessional. That's not cool, people. That's just not cool. So let's take better care of the properties, because we don't want to walk into the house with a customer, and sometimes the prospects they come in right behind you, and then you're cleaning up things, picking up things off the floor, off the counter, and just tidying up the place. So let's just take a little bit care of these properties, better care of these properties, so we don't walk into these surprises. So, and that's another reason why I like to arrive early, maybe 20-30 minutes early if possible, just to make sure again that the property is presentable and in showing condition, and so that you can address any potential items or issues before the people come in to view the unit. I always say that experience is the best teacher, and so I want you to be able to learn from my experience, because no one shared any of this with me. I had to learn on my own. I learned from trial and error. So, hopefully you can benefit from this and elevate your game. Well, folks, that concludes the discussion for today's show on how to show rental properties. 8 tips for showing rental properties. I hope that you enjoyed the information for our special segment of Tip Tuesday. I trust that you found this information to be useful and valuable. Again, I want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of Sonia's Real Estate Connection Hot Topics and the new Tip Tuesday session, where I aim to bring you professional tips on Tuesdays, first Tuesday of the month in June. Tip Tuesdays, I will share with you my professional tips and suggestions to help you in your real estate and business practices. And of course, I always like to provide the source of the information from today's show for those inquiring minds that want to know the information. The images came from Google Stock and Adobe Images, if I pronounced that correctly. And so again, it's always a pleasure to serve our listening audience and viewers in this capacity as we seek to educate and empower you to help you make an informed, educated decision concerning your real estate transaction, business practices, and to keep you up to date on the latest and greatest developments and information in the real estate industry. Thanks again for tuning in, and please feel free to reach us at our toll-free number, which is 844-777-7725. Again, that toll-free number is 844-777-7725, or you may send us an email to admin@midexec.com, or go ahead and check out the website at midwestexecutiverealty.com. Again, that website is midwestexecutiverealty.com. Thanks again, folks. And until we meet again, make it a great day. And may you always be safe, healthy, and be well. God bless.